For 30 years, I was the safety net for my children, Gavin and Kendall. I worked long hours, paid their debts, and quietly absorbed their patronizing demands. They believed my sacrifices were automatic, my silence a sign of weakness. They thought they could bleed me dry forever, unaware that the hand that holds the purse strings can also quietly close them. Now, I have stopped catching them. If you have ever been taken for granted by those you gave everything to protect, please subscribe, like, and comment. I need to know what happened. When a mother quietly decides she has given enough, how far will her children fall before they realize no one is catching them? The clinical trial database at the research center runs on a quiet, rhythmic hum. I sit in my glass-walled office, my fingers typing in the patient ID codes with a steady, clinical precision. Here, everything has a protocol. If a patient violates the trial parameters, they are quietly, systematically removed from the study. There are no arguments, no tears, no emotional pleas. Just a box checked on a screen and a file closed. I wish my home had protocols. I arrive at our suburban house at 6 in the evening, my shoulders aching under my wool coat. The kitchen smells of stale toast and expensive cured meats. Gavin, my 31-year-old son, is sitting at the granite kitchen island. His laptop is open, surrounded by empty coffee mugs that I will have to wash later. "Mom, you're late," Gavin says, not looking up from his screen. He has his father's sharp jawline and the same arrogant, dismissive squint. "The Wi-Fi was lagging at 3 and I had to host a pitch meeting with the angel investors. We really need to upgrade to the fiber optic package." "I was running the late phase oncology reports, Gavin," I say, my voice flat as I hang my keys on the brass hook by the door. "Yeah, well, oncology doesn't pay the bills," he mutters, sliding a thick manila envelope across the counter toward me. "I need you to sign the draw request for the home equity line. The development team in Bangalore needs another $8,000 to finalize the beta version of the app. If I don't pay them by Friday, they're going to freeze the code." He doesn't ask how my day was. He doesn't ask if I've eaten. He simply presents the draw request as if it were a utility bill, an administrative task I am obligated to perform to keep his dream of being a tech mogul alive. He has been 3 months away from launching his app for 4 years. "I'll look at it later, Gavin," I say softly. "I don't have later, Mom," he says, his voice rising with that sharp, defensive irritation he uses when I don't move fast enough. The market is moving. If we don't launch by winter, the valuation drops by half. Just sign it now so I can scan it back to them. Before I can answer, the heavy front door clicks open. My 28-year-old daughter, Kendall, sweeps into the foyer, her expensive silk scarf trailing behind her like a banner. She is carrying a small, trembling French bulldog under her arm and a designer suitcase in her hand. "Mom, thank God you're home," Kendall sighs, dropping her suitcase onto my polished hardwood floor with a loud, dull thud. She doesn't kiss my cheek. "I have a last-minute influencer retreat in Cabo. The brand is flying us out tomorrow morning. I need you to watch Winston until Sunday." She places the shivering dog onto the counter, directly next to Gavin's laptop. "He has to have his raw beef meals twice a day, Mom," she continues, already checking her reflection in the microwave door. "And his eye drops are in the side pocket of the bag. Don't use the cheap tap water for his bowl, it gives him tear stains. Oh, and I left some laundry in the hall. Can you make sure the silk trousers are dry cleaned? I need them for a shoot next week." I look at my daughter. She lives in a rented luxury apartment downtown that I co-signed for, wearing designer clothes paid for by the credit card I gave her for emergencies 3 years ago. She treats my home like a free boarding kennel, and me like an unpaid personal assistant who should be grateful for her occasional presence. "I have a double shift at the clinic on Thursday, Kendall," I say, my hand resting on the edge of the granite counter. Mom, please don't start, Kendall groans, her face twisting in a shallow, performative exhaustion. It's 4 days. Winston sleeps most of the time anyway. Just adjust your schedule. I can't cancel this trip. My engagement metrics depend on it. She drops her car keys onto the brass tray by the door and heads toward the stairs. I'm going to take a shower. Gavin, did you finish my editing layout? They walk away, their voices fading down the hallway, leaving me alone in the kitchen with the shivering dog and the paper draw request sitting on the counter. I pick up the document. The paper is crisp, white, and heavy. It represents another $8,000 taken from the equity of the home my late husband Arthur left me, the only financial safety net I have left. Over the last 8 years, through Gavin's failed startups and Kendall's credit card crises, they have drained 90% of my liquid savings. They believe my capacity for sacrifice is infinite. They believe I am a well that will never run dry, a silent safety net that will always be there to catch them when they fall. I carry the draw request to my small study off the kitchen. I sit at my desk, looking at the blinking cursor on my computer screen. I do not sign the paper. Instead, I open my private email portal. I write a short, precise message to Clara Higgins, the corporate relocation specialist at my research center's parent company. Dear Clara, I am writing to accept the early retirement buyout package we discussed last month. Additionally, I would like to move forward with the immediate cash-in-hand sale of my property to your corporate housing division. I am prepared to close within 30 days. No staging is necessary. I press send. The mechanical swoosh of the outgoing email is the only sound in the dark room. They think my silence is submission. They think my compliance is automatic. They have no idea that the silent partner is about to close the business. The morning begins with a cold, gray sleet tapping against our kitchen window. In the pantry, Winston is whining, a high-pitched, relentless sound that makes my teeth ache. I open a fresh package of his organic raw beef, the sterile, metallic scent of the meat cold on my fingers as I place it in his porcelain bowl. Gavin comes downstairs at 7:30, his eyes bloodshot, his noise-canceling headphones slung around his neck like a collar. He looks at the granite island, his hand hovering over the empty counter. Mom, where's the signed draw form? He asks, his voice tight with a rising, impatient edge. I told you, I need to upload the scanned copy by 9 to hit the banking cutoff. I need to review the amortization schedule first, Gavin, I say, pouring my coffee into a plain ceramic mug. I want to see what the monthly payments will look like before we draw another $8,000. He sighs, a loud, theatrical show of pure frustration. He rubs his face with his palms, his shoulders slumping. Mom, there is no schedule to check. It's an open line of credit. You're just delaying for the sake of delaying. This is exactly why my last 3 projects failed. You take days to make a simple administrative decision while my development team is sitting on their hands. It's holding me back. He treats my financial caution as a personal defect, a slow-mindedness he must tolerate. I do not defend myself. I do not tell him that my caution is the only reason he isn't in a federal court for his outstanding business tax liens. I simply take my mug and walk out to my car. Before I back out of the driveway, I gather the mail from the black iron box on the porch. Among the local flyers is the monthly statement for the secondary Visa card. The card is in Kendall's name, but the liability is entirely mine. I open the envelope in the quiet of my car, the heater blowing cold, dusty air against my knees. October 28th, Christian Louboutin, Chicago. $4,562.50. She bought the red-soled heels for her influencer trip to Cabo, and she put them on my card, knowing I have never spent more than $80 on a pair of shoes in my life. She didn't call to ask. She didn't send a text. She simply swiped the card, confident that I would silently absorb the debt, as I have for her rent, her car lease, and her lifestyle. I slide the statement into my glove compartment, next to the folder of Gavin's failed business tax documents. I return home at noon to feed Winston, as Kendall demanded. When I walk into the kitchen, the smell of imported prosciutto and expensive cheese fills the warm air. Gavin is standing near the stove with his girlfriend of 6 months, Melanie Hayes. Melanie is 27, her lips plumped, her hair styled in perfect clinical waves, wearing a designer tracksuit that costs more than my weekly salary at the research center. "Oh, hi, Mrs. Sterling," Melanie says, her voice sweet and thoroughly hollow as she looks up from her plate. She looks around my kitchen with a delicate, squinting disapproval. "We were just talking about this island. Gavin, if you take out that overhead cabinet wall, you can put in a massive double waterfall marble slab. It would look so much more current. It's a bit claustrophobic in here." "Yeah, I'm planning on doing that once the new series funding clears," Gavin says, leaning against the counter. My mom's taste is very 90s. It's a bit suffocating. They talk about my house as if I am merely a temporary occupant, a tenant they are waiting to inherit the space from. They are already knocking down the walls I painted with my own hands after Arthur died. "The overhead cabinet is load-bearing, Gavin," I say quietly, setting Winston's raw beef bowl on the kitchen floor. "Everything can be engineered, Mom," Gavin says with a patronizing chuckle, not looking at my face. "You just don't have the vision." I look at Melanie's manicured hand resting on my marble counter. I look at Gavin, who has never paid a single mortgage payment in his life, planning to tear down the walls Charles and I built. I say nothing. I wipe a stray drop of dog food from the floor and walk to my study. I open my laptop and log into my private email portal. A new message from Clara Higgins, the corporate relocation specialist, is waiting for me. "Dear Evelyn, the corporate relocation team has formally approved your early buyout and property purchase. The surveyor and the home inspector are scheduled to arrive this Friday, November 18th, at 2:30 in the afternoon to finalize the cash valuation. Please ensure the property is accessible." Friday at 2:30. That is the exact time Gavin has scheduled his final investor Zoom call in the study. He told me yesterday that he needs absolute silence in the house for the pitch, demanding that I stay at the clinic late so I don't disturb him. He is betting his entire future on Friday afternoon. I click reply. "Dear Clara, Friday at 2:30 works perfectly. I will ensure the front doors are unlocked and the property is open for the inspection." The trap is set, and my son is about to find out exactly how much his vision is going to cost him. By Wednesday night, Kendall is back from Cabo early, her face slightly sunburned, her voice thin with a whining outrage. She sits at the dining table, picking at the salmon I prepared, complaining about her treatment by the brand representative. "They put me in a garden view suite, Mom," she says, her tone dripping with a shallow, performing tragedy. "Can you believe that? A garden view. I have over 80,000 followers and they treated me like a second-tier creator. I had to pay for my own room service on the last night." "The salmon is dry, Mom," Gavin adds, pushing his plate away. His laptop is open on his lap, his fingers typing in rapid, rhythmic bursts. "Did you look at that HELOC draw form again? I need the confirmation number by tomorrow night. The Bangalore team is threatening to pull the code repository if the wire doesn't clear." "I am still reviewing the bank documents, Gavin," I say quietly, taking a slow sip of my water. Reviewing it? Kendall laughs, a light musical sound that makes my stomach tighten. Mom, it's just a signature. It's not like you're doing actual research. It's just clerical stuff. You're always so dramatic about money. They talk about my career at the clinical trial center as if I am a clerk filing paper receipts in a dusty basement, completely unaware that I manage 32 clinical trial budgets totaling $40 million. They have spent their entire lives treating my professional competence as a free administrative resource to be mined for their convenience, completely blind to the woman who built the safety net they sleep on. After dinner, Kendall drops her cream silk trousers onto the ironing board in the laundry room. "Mom, can you steam these for me?" she asks, not looking at my face. She is checking her analytics on her phone, her thumb flicking across the screen. The cleaners left a slight crease near the hem, and I have a meeting with a potential manager tomorrow downtown. I need them to be perfect. I heat the iron. The steam rises in a warm, moist cloud, smelling of clean water and hot silk. As I press the crease with slow, deliberate movements, I look at my daughter's reflection in the dark glass of the laundry room window. She has my eyes, but her gaze is cold, focused entirely on the glowing screen in her hand. I realize, with a quiet, aching grief, that this is the last time I will ever iron a shirt for my daughter. I am preparing her to stand in front of her potential manager while the ground beneath her feet is being systematically removed. She has never known the cost of her silk. She has never known the weight of a debt. To her, my labor is just a background utility she expects to run forever in the house she believes she owns. "It's done, Kendall," I say, handing her the hanger. "Thanks, Mom," she mutters, taking the trousers without looking up, already walking away. I go back to my small study off the kitchen, lock the door, and call Gordon Croft on my landline. Gordon is a retired real estate attorney who used to handle the clinical trial center's property leases. He is the only person who knows the true extent of my financial ruin. "Evelyn," Gordon's voice is slow and steady. "The documents to close the home equity line of credit are ready. Once you sign the formal revocation on Friday morning at 9, the bank will freeze the line immediately. No further draws can be made by Gavin or anyone else." "Good," I say. "You understand the implications, Evelyn?" Gordon pauses, a heavy silence hanging over the line. The relocation company's contract has a strict, immediate vacant possession clause. If you close the cash sale on Friday afternoon, the family has exactly 14 days to vacate the premises. The corporate housing division will take physical possession of the house. "I understand," I say, my hand resting on the envelope containing Kendall's $4,500 shoe bill. "Gavin and Kendall, they have no assets, Evelyn. Their credit is leveraged entirely against your name. Once the house is sold, they will have nowhere to go." I look at the faded wallpaper of my small study. I look at the dark, cold sleet tapping against the glass. "They have their vision, Gordon," I say softly, my voice filled with the quiet, devastating peace of a woman who has finally finished her work. "Let's see what they can build with it." By Thursday evening, the house smells of truffle oil, seared yellowfin tuna, and expensive Pinot Grigio. Kendall has laid out the silver chargers, the ones my mother gave me for my wedding in 1984. She has placed the linen napkins on the mahogany dining table, the white candles already lit and casting a warm amber glow over the room. I walk into the kitchen to make a cup of chamomile tea, but Kendall intercepts me at the doorway. She places her hand lightly on my forearm. It is a soft, controlling touch, designed to look like affection. "Mom, we have some very important branding partners and Gavin's lead developers coming over tonight," she says, her voice dropping into that patronizing, low register. "It's a tight networking dinner. We're discussing the pre-launch strategy. We thought it would be much more comfortable for you to eat in your room tonight. The noise can get so loud in here, and we don't want you to feel overwhelmed by all the tech talk. I left some of the frozen lasagna in the freezer for you." She hands me a small paper plate with a single, dry slice of toast. "Just to tide you over," she says, her smile sweet and clinical. "You just go get some rest." I look down at the paper plate. I look past her at my dining room, ready to receive guests who will drink the expensive wine paid for by the credit line they took from my checking account. I am being ushered out of my own sight, a piece of old clutter to be tucked away before the company arrives. "Thank you, Kendall," I say, my voice steady and empty of any emotion. I carry my cup of tea and my plate back to my small bedroom. The lasagna is rubbery and the sauce is too sweet, but I eat every bite in the dark, listening to the muffled sounds of laughter and the clinking of my crystal wine glasses drifting through the plaster wall from the other side of the room. By 8 o'clock, the laughter has grown louder. The heat of the dining room doesn't reach my bedroom, but their voices carry perfectly through the thin lath and plaster. I stand near the locked door that connects my room to the hallway, my ear pressed to the wood. "Oh yes, we're based here for now," I hear Gavin say to a guest. His voice is rich with a false, practiced confidence that makes my stomach tighten. Honestly, it's a strategic choice. The house is a solid asset, and we're using the equity to bootstrap the launch. My mom. She's basically a quiet roommate. She helps out with Winston and keeps to her room. It's a good arrangement. "It's a massive workspace," a man's voice responds, dripping with a shallow professional sympathy. "But it's so great of you to let her stay here while you scale." "We do what we have to do," Kendall adds, her tones sighing with a practiced martyrdom. "We're just trying to keep her comfortable, but her taste is so dated. We're going to completely remodel the kitchen once the seed round closes next week." I stand in the dark hallway, my hand resting on the cold brass doorknob. The quiet roommate. They have erased me in my own home. They aren't just freeloading in my house, they are preparing the ground to assume full legal control of this property, presenting themselves as the owners, while I am reduced to an unpaid domestic servant. My own children have decided that the easiest way to steal my life is to pretend I am already gone. Friday morning at 7 o'clock, the house is freezing. The sleet has stopped, leaving a thin, dangerous sheet of ice on the driveway. Gavin is in the kitchen, pacing the floor with his laptop. His face is pale, his eyes wide with a rising, frantic panic. "Mom," he says, his voice tight. "The bank portal. There's an administrative lock on the equity line. I tried to initiate the wire for the Bangalore team, but the screen says the line is under review. Did you call them?" "The bank said there was a system update today, Gavin," I say, my voice level and dry as I pack my clinical journals into my briefcase. "They are reviewing the accounts." "An update?" He steps closer, his boots heavy on my floor. "I need that capital for the code release by 3, Mom. You can't just let the bank freeze things. I have my final pitch with the Chicago Angel Group at 2:30. If the developers pull the code, I'll be showing the investors an empty screen." "I'll check on it when I get to the office, Gavin," I say softly. "Make sure you do," he snaps, checking his watch. "Because this is completely unacceptable. We're trying to build a stable environment, and you're making things difficult. We'll talk about this when I get back." He turns on his heel and storms toward the study, slamming the door. I look at my briefcase. At 9 o'clock, I will be in Gordon's office, signing the revocation of the home equity line of credit. And at 2:30, the corporate relocation team will arrive at my front door. The countdown has begun, and my son is running out of time. At 9 o'clock, I sit in Gordon Croft's quiet wood-paneled office. The air smells of old paper, dust, and leather. Gordon slides the single sheet of paper across his desk. It is the formal revocation of my home equity line of credit. "Once you sign this, Evelyn," Gordon says, his voice flat and steady, carrying the quiet gravity of an attorney delivering a final judgment. "The bank's compliance team will process the freeze within 10 minutes. Any pending draws, including Gavin's wire transfer to his developers, will be permanently declined." I hold the heavy gold fountain pen. My hand is perfectly steady. I sign my name on the line, Evelyn Sterling. The ink is dark, permanent, and clean. "It's done," Gordon says, gathering the documents with a quiet nod. "I will fax the copy to the bank's regional director now. The line is officially closed." I feel a quiet, profound sense of release. 30 years of being a quiet safety net, resolved with a single stroke of a pen. I return to the house at noon to feed Winston as Kendall demanded. When I walk into the kitchen, the warmth is gone, replaced by a frantic, heavy tension. Kendall is standing near the marble island, her suitcase half-packed, her face flushed with a high-pitched, defensive panic. "Mom, there's something wrong with the emergency visa," she says, her voice rising in that sharp register she uses when she is cornered. "I tried to book my flight ticket to New York for the branding shoot tomorrow, and the transaction was declined. I called the bank, but they said the account is under administrative review. Did you forget to pay the bill?" "The bill was paid, Kendall," I say softly as I place Winston's beef bowl on the kitchen floor. "The bank must be reviewing the secondary cards." "Well, call them!" she screams, her face twisting in adolescent anger. "This is my career, Mom. If I'm not in New York by tomorrow, the brand will replace me with another creator. You can't just let them freeze my card. It's completely unprofessional." She treats my credit card as her personal right, an automatic utility she is entitled to exploit. She doesn't see the woman who has been paying her debts. She only sees the interruption of her service. "I'll look into it later, Kendall," I say, my voice level. "Later is too late," she groans, grabbing her phone and storming out of the kitchen. At 2 o'clock, Gavin steps out of the study. He is wearing his only tailored suit, his face unusually pale, his forehead shining with a thin film of sweat. He is holding a glass of ice water, his hand trembling slightly. "Mom, the Zoom call starts in 30 minutes, he says, his voice dangerously tight. The bank portal is still locked. My Bangalore team has officially frozen the code repository because the wire didn't clear. I have to pitch the investors using the old mock-up slides. I need absolute silence in the house. Go to your room and stay there. If the dog barks, lock him in the garage." He treats my home as his executive stage, a space he has requisitioned for his own vanity, while I am reduced to a quiet obstacle he needs to manage. "The home inspector is scheduled to arrive at 2:30, Gavin," I say quietly. "I don't care about the inspector, Mom," he yells, his composure finally fracturing, his eyes wide with a frantic panic. "Tell them to wait. This is my life's work. If this pitch fails, I have nothing. Just do what I tell you for once." He slams the study door, his heavy footsteps fading as he sits at his desk. At exactly 2:25, a white utility van with the logo Vanguard Relocation and Valuation pulls into the gravel driveway, followed by Clara Higgins's cream-colored sedan. 2 men in work jumpsuits step out, carrying clipboards and measuring tools. I walk to the front door. The heavy brass lock clicks open as I turn the key. Through the thin study door, I can hear Gavin's voice, rich with that false, practiced confidence, greeting his angel investors on the screen. "Good afternoon, gentlemen," he says. "Thank you for joining. I'm excited to show you the future of our enterprise." I open the front door, the freezing wind rushing into the foyer. "Hello, Clara," I say, my voice steady. "Come in. The house is open." Clara and her team step into the foyer. They are polite, quiet, and professional. They do not wear dirty boots. They put on small blue paper booties over their shoes, their movements efficient and silent. For the next 20 minutes, they walk through my home. One of the inspectors, a man in his 50s named Thomas, holds a digital measuring device. The red laser dot of his tape measure dances across my dining room walls, reflecting off my mother's silver chargers on the sideboard. Through the closed study door, Gavin's voice rises, tight with a strained, performing optimism. "We are projecting a 300% user growth in the first quarter," he tells his prospective investors. "Our development team in Bangalore is currently finalizing the beta deployment. The infrastructure is fully scalable." I watch the red laser dot on the dining room wall. The contrast is absolute. My son is selling a digital illusion of his future on the other side of the wall, while Thomas is measuring the physical reality of my house for its immediate liquidation. Kendall comes downstairs, her silk travel trousers on, her phone pressed to her ear. She stops dead when she sees Clara and Thomas standing in the kitchen, taking photographs of the double oven. She hangs up her phone, her face twisting in confusion and anger. "Mom, who are these people?" she demands, her voice sharp, her posture rigid. "Why are they taking pictures of our kitchen? I'm trying to resolve my credit card issue, and now I have strangers walking through the house." "They are with the corporate relocation division, Kendall," I say softly, leaning my shoulder against the counter. "They are completing a pre-sale property valuation." "Valuation?" Kendall laughs, a high-pitched, defensive sound that has no real joy in it. "For what? You're not selling the house. You can't. Gavin and I live here. We have our business based here. Tell them to leave, Mom. It's completely unprofessional to have people wandering around while we're working." She doesn't ask if I have the right to sell. She simply orders me to dismiss them, completely blind to the fact that she has no legal claim to a single brick of this building. She treats my home as her personal, free asset, completely unaware that the floor beneath her feet has already been cut away. Thomas walks down the hallway, clipboard in hand. "Evelyn, we need to inspect the foundation access in the study closet. It's a requirement for the cash valuation." "The study is occupied, Thomas," I say quietly, "but you may enter." Thomas knocks on the study door. A second later, the door flies open. Gavin stands in the threshold, his face a dark, furious purple, his silk tie askew. "What the hell is going on?" he screams, his voice echoing through the house, carrying straight into his active Zoom call. "I told you I needed absolute silence. I'm in the middle of a pitch with the lead partner of the Chicago Angel Fund. Who are these people?" Clara Higgins steps forward, her face calm and professional. "Mr. Sterling, my name is Clara Higgins. I am the acquisition director for Vanguard Relocation. We are completing the pre-sale valuation of this property." Gavin stares at her, a hollow, pathetic laugh escaping his throat. "Pre-sale? This is my mother's house. She isn't selling. This is a mistake. Get out of here before I call the police." "Your mother signed the cash buyout agreement yesterday morning, Mr. Sterling," Clara says, pulling a notarized copy of the deed from her leather folder. "The property is registered solely in her name. Arthur Sterling's estate was settled years ago. She has full, exclusive legal authority to transfer possession." Gavin turns to me, his chest heaving under his tailored suit, his eyes wide with a wild, terrifying realization. He looks at me, and for the first time in his life, He looks at me as a person who has the power to destroy his illusions. Before he can speak, his laptop on the desk chimes with a loud digital notification. Through the open door, I can see the screen. His lead developer in Bangalore has sent an email. Sprints halted. Repository closed. Wire transfer of $8,000. 00 declined due to insufficient funds. Project terminated. Gavin looks at the screen. He looks at me. The silence in the hallway is absolute, and my son is finally realizing just how cold the winter is going to be. The silence in the study is heavy, broken only by the tinny digital voice of the investor coming from Gavin's laptop speaker. Gavin, are you there? Who was that talking about a pre-sale valuation? Gavin turns back to the screen, his hand shaking so violently he has to grip his mouse with both hands to steady it. Yes, I'm here, Richard. Just a minor administrative mix-up with the landlord. Nothing to worry about. We're fully in control. Actually, Gavin, the voice says, the lead partner of the Chicago Angel Fund, his tone cool, professional, and devastatingly final. We've been reviewing the code access parameters with our technical lead. Your Bangalore development team just flagged the repository as locked due to non-payment. If you don't even have control of your own source code, we can't move forward with the due diligence. We're going to pass on this round. Good luck. The line goes dead with a soft digital beep. Gavin slowly closes his laptop lid, his shoulders slumping, his face completely drained of color. The tailored suit he wore to look like a successful executive now looks like a costume he borrowed for a play that has just been canceled. Kendall pushes past the inspector, her eyes wide with a rising, frantic panic as she grabs Gavin's arm. Gavin, what is happening? What did she sign? She sold the house, Kendall. Gavin whispers, his voice cracked and hollow, his eyes staring blankly at the closed laptop. Kendall turns to me, her teeth bared in a tight, desperate snarl, her polished influencer facade completely shattered. Mom, you can't do this. Where are we supposed to go? My lease on the downtown apartment is up next month, and my credit is ruined because of that card. You have to call the bank. You have to undo this. The contract is legally binding, Miss Sterling, Clara says, her voice carrying a calm, professional finality that cuts through the noise. The cash transaction has already been initiated. Under the immediate vacant possession clause, you have exactly 14 days to vacate the premises. The corporate relocation team will take physical possession of the house on December 2nd. 14 days? Kendall screams, her voice cracking as she looks around my kitchen. We'll be homeless. You can't put your own children on the street, Mom. It's illegal. I do not answer. I do not raise my voice. I do not offer them a single word of comfort, defense, or explanation. I walk past them, into the kitchen. I pick up Winston's leash and his travel bag, placing them neatly by the front door. I retrieve my briefcase and my wool coat from the hall closet. Gavin steps into the kitchen, blocking my path to the door, his face twisting with a wild, dangerous desperation. His hands are trembling, his executive posture completely collapsed. Mom, please, he says, his voice dropping into a pleading whisper. You have your retirement. You have your savings. You can buy out the contract. You can pay the Bangalore team. Just help me this one last time. I swear I'll pay you back double once the next startup clears. You can't leave us like this. I look at my firstborn son. I look at his expensive suit, his manicured hands, his utter, absolute dependency on the very mother he referred to as a quiet roommate last night. He has spent his entire life treating my love as a commodity to be traded, my sacrifice as an automatic utility, completely blind to the fact that the bank is empty. His dependency is a disease he expects me to cure, but I am finally out of medicine. I do not speak. I gently step around him, open the front door, and walk out into the cold, gray sleet. I climb into my car. The engine starts with a loud, familiar rumble, the heater slowly blowing warm air against my cold hands. My phone vibrates on the passenger seat. A notification from my bank account pops up. Alert: wire transfer of $550,000 from Vanguard relocation received. The cash has landed. My safety net is built, but this time, it is entirely my own. I scroll through my personal emails on my screen. A confirmation from the Heritage Lofts downtown sits at the top of my inbox. Lease agreement finalized. Keys available for pickup Friday, November 18th at 4:30 p.m. Welcome to your new home, Evelyn. I look back at the White House in my rearview mirror. Through the kitchen window, I can see Gavin and Kendall standing in the light, arguing frantically, their faces pale and terrified as the cold wind rattles the storm windows. They have exactly 14 days, and my silent war is already won. The loft at the Heritage is small, warm, and entirely my own. It sits on the 6th floor, overlooking the sluggish, gray river that cuts through the downtown historic district. The walls are exposed, century-old red brick, the floor polished concrete that reflects the amber glow of my small copper desk lamp. There are no boxes of Gavin's failed inventory in my hallway. There are no piles of Kendall's dry cleaning on the sofa. There is only my small antique desk, my bed, and a single chipped blue willow plate sitting on the dark wood of my kitchen counter. For the first time in 30 years, the silence is not a void I have to fill with someone else's noise. It is a solid, warm presence, settling into the corners of the room like a heavy wool blanket. I make a cup of chamomile tea. The kettle whistles softly, a gentle, domestic sound that doesn't demand anything from me. I sit by the window, watching the sleet turn to rain over the city lights below. I do not have to check the thermostat. I do not have to wash Winston's bowl. I am finally a resident of my own life. By Saturday morning, my phone is a graveyard of frantic notifications. 27 missed calls from Gavin, 14 from Kendall, 3 from Melanie Hayes. I do not answer. I set my phone on the kitchen counter, put the speaker on, and play the voicemails while I fold my sweaters. Mom, you have to call me. Gavin's voice is shaky, stripped of all its tech bro confidence, bordering on tears. The bank just sent a formal notice. Because the HELOC was revoked, they are auditing our commercial credit lines. They're threatening to seize my personal vehicle by Monday. Mom, please, just tell them it was an administrative mistake. We can fix this if you just sign the restoration form. I'm begging you. The next is Kendall, her voice high and nasal with panic, the sound of Winston whining in the background. Mom, where are you? We went to your office at the clinic, but they said you retired yesterday. You can't just disappear. The landlord downtown is refusing to renew my lease because my credit card was declined. I have nowhere to go. Winston is throwing up because he's stressed. You have to come back and help us. They still believe this is a temporary glitch, a mother's tantrum they can resolve if they just pull the right emotional levers, if they make me feel guilty enough. They do not understand that the lever has been completely disconnected from the wall. At noon, the phone rings again. It is Kendall. This time, I press accept. Mom, she gasps, her voice trembling, her usual polished arrogance completely gone. Oh, thank God. Where are you? We've been driving around looking for your car. We have to sign the new lease for the condo downtown by Monday, and I need you to wire the security deposit. It's $6,000. Gavin said you got a massive buyout from the clinic. You have the money. I've already allocated my funds, Kendall, I say softly, my voice level. Allocated them? She screams, her voice cracking, dropping into a raw, ugly anger. To what? Your retirement? Mom, we are your children. We are your future. You're going to let us starve in the street for some stupid loft? The loft is very quiet, Kendall, I say. You're a monster, she whispers, her voice shaking with a desperate, helpless hatred. Dad would have never let you do this to us. He loved us. Your father is the reason I am doing this, Kendall, I say quietly. He taught you that my sacrifice was free. I am simply charging the market rate now. I hang up. The silence returns, warm and heavy. Before I can put the phone down, an email notification pops up from my personal banking portal. A formal inquiry has been made regarding the Arthur Sterling Annuity Trust, the restricted life insurance fund Arthur left when he died in 2002. Gavin has attempted to file a hardship withdrawal request against the annuity, claiming he is the sole primary beneficiary. He doesn't know that the trust was structured so that the funds only released to me upon my formal retirement from the clinical trial center. The bank's automated message reads, "Withdrawal request flagged as unauthorized. Secondary signature of Evelyn Sterling required. Immediate audit of trustee accounts initiated." Gavin is in the dark, clawing at the walls of my estate, trying to find a lock to pick, completely unaware that his greed has just triggered the final, silent alarm. At 4 p.m. on Tuesday, the lobby intercom in my loft chimes. I press the talk button. Gavin's voice comes through the brass speaker, crackling and thin, carrying a desperate, shivering edge that vibrates in the quiet of my new hallway. Mom, please. I'm downstairs in the lobby. The security guard won't let me up. I just need 5 minutes. Just 5 minutes, Mom. It's an emergency. I walk down the hallway and take the elevator to the ground floor. The lobby of the Heritage is warm, smelling of polished leather, brass polish, and wood smoke. Gavin is standing near the glass doors, his hands crammed deep into his pockets. He is still wearing his gray suit, but the collar is dirty, his cuffs are frayed, and he hasn't shaved in 3 days. He looks like a man who has spent 72 hours looking for a doorway that doesn't exist. Mom, he says, stepping toward me as the elevator doors slide open. The security guard, a heavy, quiet man named Marcus, steps forward to intercept him, but I raise my hand to stop him. I stand near the brass mailboxes, my hands folded in my coat pockets, keeping 10 feet of cool, polished tile between my son and me. The bank flagged the annuity withdrawal, Gavin, I say, my voice steady and quiet. I was desperate, Mom, he whispers, his eyes wide and bloodshot, his face gray with exhaustion. The developers in Bangalore, they're threatening to file a civil suit for breach of contract and intellectual property theft. And the bank, they said because I tried to access the trust using your digital signature, they're auditing my personal accounts. They're calling it bank fraud, Mom. If they refer it to the district attorney, I could face federal charges. You have to sign the waiver. You have to tell them it was an authorized withdrawal. I look at my son. I remember the day he was born, the cold, dark January morning in 1991, when I held him in my arms, promising myself I would always protect him from the coldness of the world. I spent 30 years keeping that promise, absorbing his debts, cleaning his messes, and letting him believe he was a genius while I quietly paid his bills. But his hand is on my throat now. He isn't asking for my help. He is demanding my survival to pay for his vanity. I didn't authorize the withdrawal, Gavin, I say quietly. Mom, they will arrest me, he screams, his voice cracking, the sound echoing off the high brick walls of the lobby. Do you want to see your own son in prison? Over some money? You have $500,000 from the house sale. Just pay them. I am not paying your developers, Gavin, I say, my voice level and dry. And I am not signing the waiver. You're a monster, he spits, his face twisting in a wild, ugly fury. his hand rising as if to grab my sleeve before Marcus steps firmly between us. "You've always hated my success. You've always wanted me to fail so I'd stay dependent on you. You're destroying my life." The psychological projection is staggering. He has spent his entire adult life bleeding me dry, and he has convinced himself that my refusal to be destroyed is an act of malice. He is completely dependent on my sacrifice, and he is furious that the resource has run dry. "I have to go back to my tea, Gavin," I say softly. I turn and walk back to the elevator, the heavy steel doors sliding shut on his screams, leaving him in the lobby with his dirty collar and his stolen signatures. I go back to my loft. My phone chimes on the kitchen counter with an email from Clara Higgins. "Dear Evelyn, the valuation team has finished cataloging the suburban house. During the basement inspection, behind Arthur's old workbench, we found a hidden wall safe covered by a loose sheet of drywall. The bank records indicate it was registered under Arthur's name in 1995, but it was never listed in his probate files. We require your permission to drill the lock." I stare at the screen. 1995. That was the year Arthur took out the first second mortgage on our home. The money he claimed went into his failed logistics business. My husband kept a secret behind his workbench for 27 years, and the key is already in his son's pocket. On Wednesday morning, I drive back to the suburban house. The yard looks neglected already. The autumn leaves have turned into a wet brown mush that clings to the gravel driveway, and Winston is barking hoarsely from the closed garage, his sharp whines echoing through the quiet street. Clara Higgins is waiting for me in the driveway, standing beside the white utility van of the Vanguard locksmith. When I step out of my car, she offers me a quiet, professional nod. Gavin and Kendall are inside the house, their packing boxes scattered haphazardly in the foyer. They look at me as I enter, their faces a desperate, exhausted mix of boiling anger and frantic hope. "Mom," Gavin says, stepping forward, his voice hollowed out. He is still wearing his gray suit trousers, but his shirt is unbuttoned at the collar, his eyes sunken and dark. "What is the locksmith doing here? Clara said they found a safe in the basement. Is there money in it? Dad's old account?" I do not answer him. I do not look at my daughter, who is standing near the stairs, her face red from crying. I walk past them, down the narrow wooden stairs to the dark basement. The basement is cold, smelling of damp concrete dust and raw earth. Behind the heavy oak workbench Arthur built 27 years ago, a section of the drywall has been cut away, revealing a small, black iron door set into the concrete foundation. The locksmith sets up his heavy drill. The screech of the metal drill bit against the iron is deafening, filling the small, cold space with a high, screaming vibration. Gavin stands behind us, his chest heaving, his eyes wide and wet as he watches the drill. He has spent his entire adult life looking for Arthur's lost treasure, the mythical logistics shares his father promised him on his deathbed. With a heavy metallic clunk, the lock shears. The locksmith pulls the heavy iron door open, his flashlight beam cutting through the ancient dust inside. He reaches in and pulls out a single dusty leather folder, handing it to me. I open it. Inside are the original stock certificates for Cicero Freight Terminal, 10,000 voting shares, dated October 12, 1995. Gavin lets out a sharp, ragged gasp of triumph, stepping forward and reaching his hand out to grab the folder. "I knew it! I knew Dad had them! Those are the Cicero shares, Mom. They're worth over $300,000 today. I can buy out the Bangalore developers. I can save the app. I can save my company." I do not let him touch the folder. I turn the page. Beneath the stock certificates lies a single, yellowed sheet of paper, a private, notarized promissory note. I, Arthur Sterling, hereby pledge the 10,000 shares of Cicero Freight Terminal as sole collateral for a personal loan of $50,000 from Evelyn Sterling. In the event of default or non-payment by October 1998, ownership of the shares transfers permanently and exclusively to Evelyn Sterling. Arthur defaulted on that loan in 1998. He used my father's inheritance to buy his logistics trucks, promised to pay me back, and instead hid the shares behind his workbench, letting me believe the money was simply gone. He lied to me for 7 years before he died, and he lied to his son on his deathbed. I hand the yellowed promissory note to Gavin. "Read it, Gavin," I say quietly. He reads the paper. The color drains from his face, his mouth opening but no sound coming out. He stares at the yellowed signature of his father, then down at the date, his hands trembling so badly the paper rustles in the cold air. He gave them to you?" Gavin whispers, his voice shaking with a devastating, childlike betrayal. "He told me they were mine. He told me he left them for me to build my future." "Your father spent his entire life trading my security for his vanity, Gavin," I say, sliding the leather folder into my briefcase. "Just like you." Before Gavin can respond, his cell phone vibrates in his hand. He answers it, his voice hollow and weak.
"Yes, this is Gavin." I watch his face. His jaw tightens, his shoulders collapsing as he listens to the speaker on the other end of the line. "But can I have a few days? My mother, she has the papers." He looks at me, his eyes wide with a terrifying, wild panic. 48 hours? He hangs up. He stares at the blank basement wall, his hand trembling so badly the phone slips from his fingers and clatters onto the concrete floor. The bank's compliance department has officially referred the digital forgery to the state authorities. He has exactly 48 hours to produce my signed waiver, or they will issue an arrest warrant. He has spent his life believing my silence was his shield. Now, he is standing in the cold, and the shield has turned to stone. We walk back upstairs into the kitchen. The cardboard packing boxes scattered in the hallway look like headstones in a graveyard of their dreams. Kendall is sitting on her designer suitcase, her face streaked with mascara, clutching Winston to her chest. Gavin sits at the granite kitchen island, his head buried in his hands, his tailored suit coat wrinkled and stained with basement dust. "Mom, please," Kendall sobs, her voice dropping all of its airy influencer arrogance, becoming small, ragged, and desperate. "We're sorry. We know we've been difficult. We've been selfish. But we're your children. You can't let Gavin go to jail. If you sign the waiver, we'll do whatever you want. We'll help you pack. We'll find a cheap apartment. Just save him. We're family." Gavin looks up, his eyes wet and red. "I was desperate, Mom. The bank, they were going to take the car. I didn't think it would hurt you. I thought I'd pay the HELOC back before you even noticed. Please, you have the cash from the house sale. Just sign the waiver. It's just a signature." They look at me with wide, pleading eyes. It is a masterclass in emotional leverage. They are playing the only card they have left, the mother card. They expect me to feel that old, familiar wrench in my chest, the one that has made me sign my name to their debts for a decade. I look at them. I do not feel anger. I do not feel a rush of cold satisfaction. I feel only a deep, hollow emptiness. For 30 years, I have lived for their comfort. I have worked 60-hour weeks at the research center,
eaten cold leftovers, and worn worn-out shoes so they could have their private schools, their design tracksuits, and their startup ventures. But as I watch them weep, the final, fragile illusion of my motherhood dissolves. Their tears are not for the 30 years of my silent labor. They are not for the $80,000 Gavin drained, or the $4,500 Kendall charged for her Cabo shoes. They are weeping because the safety net has been cut, and they are finally hitting the ground. They are mourning the loss of their host, not the pain of their mother. I have to get back to the clinic, Gavin, I say quietly, picking up my briefcase from the counter. The late-phase oncology reports are due by 5. The clinic? Gavin screams, his voice cracking, his face twisting in a wild, ugly disbelief as he stands up. Your son is facing arrest in 48 hours, and you're going to file reports? The patients in the oncology trial depend on me, Gavin, I say, my voice level and dry as I put on my coat. Their lives actually depend on the results. Yours only depends on your own choices. I walk past them, the front door clicking shut behind me, the cold sleet washing over my face as I step onto the porch. I climb into my car. The engine starts with a loud, familiar rumble. I drive away, the cold rain smearing my windshield. In my rearview mirror, the white suburban house looks small and gray against the leaden sky, a monument to a life I have finally finished living. As I stop at the red light near the highway, my phone vibrates on the passenger seat. It is an email notification from the fraud division of my credit union, the new private account I set up last week. Dear Mrs. Sterling, we have flagged an unauthorized online login attempt on your new pension checking account, originating from the IP address associated with your former residence. The user attempted to reset the password using your old library card number as the security verification. The account has been locked. Do you wish to file a formal complaint? I stare at the screen. Gavin. He didn't just forge the HELOC. He didn't just try to raid the annuity. Even with the police on the horizon, his first instinct was to claw at my new safe, trying to break the lock on my private life to save himself. I click reply. Yes, I write, my fingers steady against the glass. Please refer the IP address and the login attempt directly to the detective handling the previous fraud investigation. The war is no longer cold. The temperature has officially dropped to 0. The heavy steel doors of the elevator in my loft building slide open on Friday morning, admitting the cold, clean scent of rain and wet asphalt. I sit at my mahogany desk by the window, holding my plain ceramic mug of tea. Through my glass doors, I can see the city below, its streets slick and dark under the gray November sky. My life is quiet now, structured by my own protocols. At 10 o'clock, my phone vibrates on the desk. It is Gordon Croft. Evelyn. Gordon's voice is slow, deliberate, and professional. Gavin was arrested at the suburban house an hour ago. The compliance team at the credit union moved forward with the formal referral to the district attorney. Kendall is currently at the police station with her suitcase and her dog, waiting for his arraignment. I see, I say quietly, taking a slow sip of my tea. Gavin's public defender called me, Gordon continues. The state is willing to defer active prosecution and offer a structured probation, but only if the primary victim, you, agrees to a civil restitution settlement. Gavin owes $80,000 to the bank to clear the fraudulent HELOC draws. He doesn't have a penny. I have the settlement documents ready, Gordon, I say softly. Please schedule the meeting at your office for 2 o'clock. Tell the public defender to bring Gavin. At 2 o'clock, I sit in Gordon Croft's quiet wood-paneled office. Gavin is sitting opposite me, flanked by a young, tired public defender. He looks completely broken. His hair is unwashed, his skin gray under the fluorescent lights, his wrinkled suit trousers smelling of the holding cell. Kendall sits beside him, clutching Winston to her chest, her designer clothes looking crumpled and pathetic. They look at me, and for the first time in their lives, there is no arrogance in their eyes. There is only a deep, terrified, and absolute dependency. "Mom, please," Gavin whispers, his voice cracking, his hands trembling as they rest on the polished mahogany desk. "Just sign the restitution waiver. I'll do anything. I'll go to rehab. I'll find a job. Just don't let them send me to prison." I do not answer him. Instead, I open my briefcase and slide a blue paper folder across the desk toward him. "I bought the Bangalore Code repository last Friday morning, Gavin," I say, my voice level, cold, and dry. "I paid your developers the $8,000 they were owed. The proprietary routing software you spent 4 years failing to launch is now legally my intellectual property." Gavin stares at the folder, his mouth opening but no sound coming out. You bought my app?" "I licensed the core routing algorithm to the Chicago Angel Fund yesterday morning," I say, my fingers resting on the leather folder. "The contract is worth $1.2 million. I also bought your outstanding $80,000 commercial debt from the credit union. I am no longer your mother, Gavin. I am your primary creditor." I slide 2 identical employment contracts across the desk, one toward Gavin and one toward Kendall. "You will work for my new logistics firm, Sterling Freight, which I have reconstituted using your father's Cicero stock certificates," I say softly. "Gavin, you will work as a junior data entry clerk, inputting the very routing data your software generates. Kendall, you will manage the paper filing in the warehouse. Your salaries will go directly to pay off your restitution to me. No silk trousers, no designer tracksuits. You will wear plain cotton uniforms, and you will arrive at 7:30 every morning." "And if we refuse?" Kendall gasps, her voice shaking with a raw, ugly realization. "The detective is waiting outside the door to process Gavin's active warrant, Kendall," I say, my voice steady. "And the relocation company takes physical possession of your bedrooms in exactly 10 days. You have 10 minutes to sign." Gavin looks at the contract. He looks at his sister, then down at his hands. He has spent his entire life treating my love as a commodity, my silence as a shield, completely blind to the fact that the shield has turned to stone. He picks up the gold fountain pen sitting on the desk and signs his name on the line, his signature small, shaky, and final. Kendall follows him, her tears smudging the ink on the white paper. I take the signed contracts, slide them into my briefcase, and stand up. I do not offer them a hand. I do not offer them a single word of comfort. I walk out of the office into the crisp, cold afternoon air. I climb into my car, my hand resting on my ring of keys. The keys to my clinical office, the keys to my loft, and now, the keys to my children's futures. I drive away toward my quiet home, leaving the broken children behind me in the shadows. The silent war is over, the protocols have been executed, and the safety net has finally been reeled in.